Welcome, nutritionradio.org listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry, a university nutrition professor of over 20 years, senior scientist, and podcast host of long-running shows like Iron Radio. This is its sister show and covers just nutrition from a variety of angles. Come on in for your brief weekly dose of commentary, critique, and probably a comedic touch when we have co-hosts. Let's see what's on tap this time. Hey everybody, Dr. Lowry here. Before we get into Monday markets and food trends, just a quick note. We are really playing with the format of the podcast. This was originally intended to be an audio show, and the YouTube creation of video backups is really taking quite a bit of time, most of the time. So in the future, we may move away from that unless people really, really like it, and maybe just put a placeholder image and back up the audio for people who like to listen through YouTube via some living room device or what have you. But let's get into our daily topic, Monday Market News from the food world. And that is coming food trends. What do I mean by that? Well, the markets and lots of marketing firms will actually interview consumers, focus groups, things like that, surveys. And as we head into 2023, what heads this up, according to Food and Beverage Insider, and if you're looking on YouTube, I'll show you an image of this for what it's worth. But redefining value leads Innova's 2023 food and beverage trends. It says as 2023 approaches, Innova Market Insights shared their top 10 trends. We'll share about 5 of them because I'd like you to go check out the Food and Beverage Insider itself. This is from very late November of last year, heading into this year. But again, number 1, according to the company, the cost of food and value of food choices has increased in importance for more than half of food and beverage consumers over last year. Now, a big part of that might be the ongoing pandemic. It might be inflation, supply chain issues, right? It's hard to sell a product when you can't get the components for the product in a supply chain. But that is the big one, the cost and value of food choices. What are some examples here? Well, fresh produce is the number 1 item that global consumers were willing to pay more for. That's probably not surprising with all of these different fresh delivery types of services that are coming, continuing to come down the pike, followed by locally produced products, and then functional ingredients that boost health. And that's something that interests me. So, for example, a functional food might be orange juice. Doesn't normally contain lots of calcium, but you can add calcium. It's actually a pretty good way to do that because it's acidic and helps with absorption, and then makes it more of a functional food. Or like micronutrients, right? Mushroom nutrients that they're putting in coffees now. Or you could think of any of these ideas, specialty fibers that they're putting into pastries, like maybe an inulin or something like that, some fructan that's going to help as a prebiotic and help with healthy gut bacteria. So functional ingredients also on this list because they enhance the value, right, of the purchase. So what else is on the list here? Number 2, it's similar. Affordable nutrition. Innova found 41% of consumers believe food and beverage product development should be driven by health, trailed by affordability. And again, because of inflation and the pandemic and lots of factors worldwide, people feel broke. So trailed by affordability, and then naturalness. And just some commentary there. Naturalness. Natural is not really well defined. I mean, try to define it yourself. You might be able to come up with a subjective way to do that. But what is natural is like a deep philosophical debate. I know a lot of bodybuilders will talk about that debate. But in this case, you know, what is natural? It's hard to define, but people, whatever that means to them, that is in that category there of properly affordable. The next one is the generational push, and I find this interesting when we talk about like baby boomers versus Gen X, like myself, or millennials or Gen Z, right? Flavor is most important even more important than affordability for Gen Z. So the younger generation, they're down with the sensory experience. That's what they want. Maybe even willing to pay just a little bit more for that. I think the upward trends in like some of the coffee markets, a lot of you know that I've been a coffee researcher. Those trends are continuing upward despite crunched economy, which is very interesting. It goes on to say under this generational push here, this number 3, affordability is more important than flavor for millennials. So it might be because of those student loans they're paying off or what have you. They feel that things that are more affordable, probably more important. So a little contrast there against Gen Z. And then it says naturalness is more important than flavor for Gen X and for baby boomers. And again, naturalness, whatever that means to the individual. Next up, we have plant-based, and this says unlocking a new narrative. And again, I encourage you to go check out the article itself there. You can see earlier in this video. Plant-based, the rise of plant-based products has slowed quite a bit with a forecasted growth of just 7% compared to about twice that a couple of years ago. And I think what's doing this is people are expecting improved texture, standalone products that don't mimic meat or dairy. Sometimes in my family we'll joke among that, if you're a vegan, why are you trying to make everything look and taste like meat, for example, if it's something that you disapprove of or dislike? But people have their own reasons, ethical reasons, etc. In any case, one of the trends here, just some commentary that irks me a bit, is the plant protein narrative that comes out. And when I hear products that do that, they're kind of boasting, plant-based proteins, and I think that bad, huh? Because those of us who understand nutrition realize that plant proteins, they tend to be less digestible, they're less complete, or they're not as high on different protein quality scales, like with the DIAS, and we can talk about these scales in the future if you want to. But they're lower quality. You have to eat more of them. You have to eat more variety of them. Now, that's okay for some people, and you can get by. You can be clever and eat your way around this. But to boast about them as if they're superior from a biological or nutritional perspective, I don't agree with that. But people, again, I think you can be clever and work around. And then the last trend that we'll talk about is number 5 here, farming the future. Conscientious farming systems and different technologies. And one of the things that interests me a lot is vertical farming, or some of these alternative ways to do this. I know that Elon Musk's brother, Kimball, he was named Global Social Entrepreneur of the Year, I think back in 2017. He's got a company, Square Roots, that he started, which is indoor urban farming company. Very interesting stuff. Again, I've even seen some of this in floating offshore, like docked boat-like structures where they're farming vertically. And again, you think about almost like hydroponics and perfect nutrients available to the plants, perfect amount of lighting, that sort of thing. But the idea is, why are we just farming on a flat plane or surface when we can be farming something that's multiple layers high? Just very interesting stuff. There is more to this, too. I mean, there's plant breeding and that sort of thing. I've seen interesting genetic alterations, for example, of coffee plants where they just don't produce caffeine. It's not regular decaf, but they don't produce the caffeine. It's very interesting stuff to me. Anyway, there's renewed interest in this sort of thing. People are interested in the environment because it seems to be going haywire and what we could be doing about it instead of using it up. Consumers want to know where their food's coming from. It says 69% globally preferring products that mention the benefits of the sourcing/farming method right on the package. So very interesting stuff there, farming for the future. So there's just 5 trends. Again, I would encourage you to go to the actual website itself. That way you can see all 10 and see how you fit your generation or your concepts of how you're going to be eating in the coming year. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. The NutritionRadio.org podcast is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, check with your physician, nutritionist, or qualified exercise physiologist in order to make the progress that you need.